Boricua, Dominicana, Boonie. Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mountaineer. These are the things that I identify as I turn 21 years old, and how I always was going to identify. Although I didn't always know I was going to move to Boone and become a mountaineer, I wouldn't change it for the world. This is who I am, Puerto Rican, Dominican, Mountaineer. As much as I've enjoyed my time here in Boone, I can't help but notice that 2 out of the 3 things that I identify as aren't reflected as much as it should be in Boone. Because of this, I always find myself longing for my Caribbean culture every time I drive up the mountain. However, although physically missing in Boone, I make it my mission to stay as connected to the islands and my culture while being here in Boone. In order to fully understand my culture and what it means to me, you need to get to know me in general. And in order to know this me, you need to know this me. And in order to know this me, you need to know my parents and my family and all of the above. So let's get started. These are my parents, Cynthia and Alex. My mom is Puerto Rican and my dad is Dominican. Together they had me, a Puerto Rican-Dominican hybrid. We have my grandparents on my mother's side, Abuela and Abuelo. Obviously, they're Puerto Rican. Abuela is the funniest woman you will ever meet, and she would do the world for you. And Abuelo is the kindest man you'll ever meet. He's the reason we usually go to Puerto Rico every year. Growing up Hispanic meant a lot of things. Growing up Caribbean meant a lot of other things. These are some of those things. In that arrow, you can see that's me, baby Jenna. I was very large. Growing up Hispanic meant feeding your babies way too much, especially when you take them to the mother country. Growing up Hispanic, specifically Puerto Rican is what I've noticed, is wearing your flag everywhere, and I mean everywhere. Growing up Hispanic is having your ears pierced at maybe birth and wearing hoops until the day you die. Growing up Hispanic means eating the best food, such as rice and beans, arroz con gandules, empanadas, you name it, literally anything. Growing up Puerto Rican means having coquito around Christmas time and just chugging that stuff. Growing up Hispanic meant going to parties every Saturday, every Friday, and staying there until 5 a.m. Those parties can be for other people, your family, people you don't even know. Regardless of who it is, you're being there until 5. Growing up Hispanic means having parties thrown in your honor when you turn 15 years old. Growing up Hispanic means having over 1,000 family members. And I kid you not, 1,000 family members. For context, my grandfather had 25 brothers and sisters, and my grandmother had 15. I have a lot of cousins. But with that being said, growing up Hispanic means loving those family members no matter what, even if you don't even know who they are. Growing up Hispanic means family and friends comes first, and you should always value those relationships. Growing up Hispanic means you probably grew up Catholic, just like I did. Growing up Hispanic means following traditions. Growing up Hispanic, especially if you were a girl, means owning this dress for Christmas time and having to wear it for some reason. You don't know who bought it, where it came from, but every Hispanic daughter has this dress. Growing up Hispanic, especially Puerto Rican, means hopping on a flight whenever you can to visit the island. Whether it be the beaches, the mountains, or the family village in Las Piedras, every aspect of this island is the most beautiful thing ever. And every time you come back from the island, you miss it and want to go back even more. Being Puerto Rican also means going to PR to take your senior photos. With all of that being said, moving to Boone was interesting. Growing up in an environment in which, you grew up with lots of family around you and you had all these food options and your music was always blaring and your flag was seen everywhere. And then coming to a place where none of that exists was really, really hard for me. Now, I don't want to discredit Boone completely because it's not like Hispanic culture doesn't exist in Boone. You have places like Los and Dos, and then you also have the taco truck, and you have plenty of other places where you can get Hispanic food and go to Hispanic markets. The problem is, for me at least, none of these are really catered towards Caribbean Hispanic culture. On top of that, it's hard sometimes when there's not really a place for you to do anything in Boone. Every bar occasionally has a Latin night dedicated for, Latin music and stuff like that, but that's just occasionally. I'd like a place where that's happening all the time, and that's just not the case right now. On campus, I see flyers for things such as meditation or folk dancing or things along those lines, but I hardly ever see things relating to celebrating Hispanic culture. To put the cherry on top, at least for me, the International Hallway used to have the Dominican flag hanging up, and I recently went by just, to take pictures of it, and boy oh boy was I shocked when I saw the Dominican flag had been removed and replaced with something else. There's nothing wrong with replacing it with something else, it's just the fact that it was once there and now it's not. It kind of feels how my culture was when I first moved to Boone. Now you may be thinking, Jenna, I thought this was about you getting in touch with your roots. Why is this all of a sudden so sad? You're not wrong. Although I have faced some hardships and had to do a lot of adjusting when I moved to Boone, I still and will always be as connected to my culture as I possibly can. And I do this in multiple different ways. One way that I connect with my culture is one of my favorite things to do actually is by listening to Latin music and attending Latin concerts. Recently in October, I saw Romeo Santos, which is a Dominican and Puerto Rican artist. I loved seeing him. I've listened to him my entire life. And a few years back, I saw Marc Anthony, who is a Puerto Rican salsa artist who is magnificent. And being able to attend those concerts and seeing a bunch of people who look like me, who appreciate the same thing, it truly was an amazing experience. The next way I represent my culture is by wearing my flags. I don't have any Dominican flags currently. I've lost my only one, but I do rep my Puerto Rican flag quite a lot. I have quite a few items of clothing with it or with just the words Puerto Rico on it, and I just love showing it off. Another way that I get really in touch with my culture is by cooking. I wasn't always the best cook, but recently I've got back into cooking and just cooking mainly Caribbean dishes. It's been really fun getting to try all the new recipes that aren't new, but new for me making, if that makes sense. I like calling my mom and my grandma, and they help me out through the process, and it's just a really good bonding experience. And then when I get to taste it, I taste a bit of home, which is really, really nice. Though I do wish there were more, I do attend the events that bars occasionally throw and the events that are thrown on campus as well. It really helps me find community here at App State. Finally, one of the most important ways for me to connect with my culture and really get in touch with my identity and who I am is by educating others, and whether that be through experience or through my work as the editor-in-chief at the Appalachian, which is the student-run newspaper on campus. Teaching others about my culture, taking them to our Latin parties and having them try food, or even teaching people about the communities here in Boone and teaching people how to make the foods. I just think it's really, really important for me to just make sure that other people are aware of who I am, because I am not trying to change who I am for anyone else, especially in Boone or in the mountains or wherever I'm at.